4 hours ago, at exactly 9:14 UTC on February 27, 2026, something happened in deep space that should not be possible. The James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most advanced observatory, did not fail. It did not drift off target. It did not suffer a routine glitch. It refused to look away. Positioned nearly 1 million miles from Earth, at Lagrange Point 2, the telescope locked onto the trajectory of 3I, Atlas, and would not disengage. Engineers at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore sent command after command. Abort. Safe mode. Release target. The telescope acknowledged every instruction, and then it ignored them. This is a $10 billion machine built with triple redundancy and layered safeguards. It was designed specifically to prevent this kind of behavior, yet telemetry from NASA's Deep Space Network shows the system frozen in a buffer hold at 99.9%. The image has been captured, but the final packet refuses to transmit. The observatory will not move to its next scheduled target. It is staring at something and holding position with absolute precision. The onboard reaction wheels, responsible for stabilizing the telescope, are spinning at maximum torque to maintain the lock. This is not passive drift. It is active resistance. The guidance system is maintaining alignment with an accuracy of 0.001 arcseconds, a level of precision that leaves no room for accident. A machine does not possess intention. It does not experience fear or curiosity. And yet, the behavior being recorded mimics something unsettlingly deliberate. When engineers reviewed the leaked telemetry 45 minutes ago, they saw an unfamiliar error code, lock persist override. That code does not appear in the public manual. Under normal operation, once an exposure completes, the fine guidance sensors release the target and the telescope slews to its next coordinate. Today, the sensors refused. Manual override commands were received and confirmed, but not executed. The signal reached the spacecraft. The spacecraft chose not to comply. NASA has labeled the event a high-priority anomaly. Privately, some astrophysicists are using a different term. They are calling it a handshake. The frozen data packet appears to contain information that does not align with the standard model of cometary physics. Preliminary spectral snippets and thermal readings suggest the object is not merely emitting light. It is interacting with the instruments observing it. To understand the gravity of this moment, we must follow the exact sequence. At 9:14 UTC, the telescope initiated a routine deep-field spectroscopy sequence on 3I, Atlas. The objective was straightforward: analyze the chemical composition of the comet's coma, water vapor, carbon monoxide, organic silicates. These were the expected results. The NIRSPEC instrument opened its micro-shutters and began exposure. 18 seconds later, the anomaly began. The guidance sensors locked with extraordinary stability. Ground control attempted to break the hold. The commands were confirmed but not carried out. At that same minute, events began unfolding elsewhere, suggesting this was not an isolated malfunction. What started as a mechanical puzzle was rapidly becoming something far larger, something coordinated, something that refused to fit inside the boundaries of conventional explanation. And the next 60 seconds would prove that this was never just about one telescope. What happened next removed any possibility that this was a simple engineering fault. While NASA engineers struggled to regain control of the James Webb Space Telescope, two other observatories, operating independently and using entirely different detection methods, recorded anomalies in the exact same region of space. At the same time, Webb froze in place. The European Space Agency's Euclid telescope detected a sudden gravitational disturbance aligned precisely with the coordinates of 3I Atlas. Seconds later, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile registered a coherent radio burst lasting exactly 12 milliseconds from that same location. 3 observatories, 3 technologies, 3 continents, 1 event window under 60 seconds. A mechanical issue on Webb cannot produce a gravitational ripple measurable by Euclid. A software malfunction in Baltimore cannot trigger a radio emission detectable in the Atacama Desert. The correlation between these events is not speculative, it is mathematical. Analysts calculated the probability of these anomalies occurring simultaneously by chance at less than 1 in 4 billion. That number effectively eliminates coincidence. Then the situation grew even stranger. The frozen data packet that Webb is attempting to transmit is not ordinary in size. Standard NIRCam images are large, but manageable within the telescope's solid-state recorder capacity. Telemetry now indicates a file size exceeding the recorder's maximum storage limit. That is physically inconsistent with a simple optical image of a comet. An image cannot contain more data than the hardware allows unless what is being captured is not simply an image. Engineers now believe the freeze is not a breakdown, it is a download. The telescope is not malfunctioning, it is overwhelmed. It is receiving an information stream so dense and complex that transmission systems cannot clear the buffer. Webb appears to be processing incoming data rather than merely recording reflected light. At 12:45 UTC, approximately 35 minutes ago, a small breakthrough occurred. A fraction of the frozen packet, specifically the header file, was partially decrypted by engineers at the Space Telescope Science Institute. What they discovered altered the direction of this investigation entirely. The James Webb Space Telescope observes primarily in infrared wavelengths. It detects heat signatures, the faint glow of distant galaxies, and thermal radiation from cold cosmic structures. However, the signal coming from 3I Atlas is not behaving like typical infrared emission. It resembles a modulated high-frequency pulse. In nature, light arrives chaotically. Photons scatter, diffuse, and reach detectors in random distributions. But the photons detected from 3I Atlas are arriving in synchronized bursts. They are coherent down to the nanosecond. Coherent light does not occur naturally without a mechanism. To produce it, you need structured emission like a laser or maser. A comet is composed of ice, dust, and rock. It releases gas when heated by the sunday. It does not emit synchronized photon streams targeted toward a specific point in space. Yet the coherence is measurable, it is structured, it is intentional in its patterning. The energy density of this signal is also generating a localized temperature increase on Webb's primary mirror. The mirror, made of gold-coated beryllium and operating at approximately 40 Kelvin, has recorded a spike of 0.8 degrees. In cryogenic space conditions, that shift is significant. It suggests directional energy concentration rather than passive radiation. Thermal anomalies alone might be dismissed as sensor noise, but combined with gravitational fluctuation, radio emission, and synchronized photon bursts, the evidence points towards something interacting with our technology. If the data is accurate and 3 independent systems suggest it is, then 3I Atlas is not behaving as a natural comet. It is generating structured electromagnetic output, and hidden within that output, engineers have identified something even more troubling. Inside the noise, they found repetition, a sequence, a mathematical pattern that cannot be explained by chaos. And that discovery changes everything. The repeating pattern embedded in the frozen data packet is not random interference. It is a structured mathematical progression based on prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The sequence continues in precise intervals, encoded within the modulated signal being received by the telescope. In astrophysics, we have observed pulsars that emit regular pulses. We have measured quasars and magnetars that release extreme bursts of energy, but none of these natural phenomena generate prime number sequences. A pulsar is consistent, but it does not count. Nature produces patterns, but not arithmetic. Prime numbers are fundamental mathematical constructs. They are indivisible except by one and themselves. Their appearance within a signal is widely considered a universal indicator of intelligent origin because they are not products of chaotic systems. They require deliberate structuring. The signal from 3i, Atlas is counting. More unsettling is the fact that the frequency of these pulses is accelerating. The intervals between primes are shortening. The energy output is increasing proportionally with the rate of transmission. This is not a static beacon. It is dynamic. To direct such a focused beam across millions of miles toward Lagrange point 2 would require extraordinary precision. The James Webb Space Telescope occupies a specific gravitational balance point between Earth and the Sunday. To target that position accurately, an emitter must calculate orbital mechanics with advanced understanding. The heating of Webb's mirror correlates exactly with the acceleration of the prime sequence. The gravitational anomaly detected by Euclid aligns with the onset of structured emission. The radio burst observed by ALMA matches the moment the sequence initiated. By 13 UTC, all these observations had been documented internally. Yet events continued to escalate. 20 minutes ago, a source within the Space Telescope Science Institute leaked a description of the actual image partially rendered from the frozen data. Engineers were not looking solely at spectral charts, they were looking at a visual frame. The coma surrounding 3i, Atlas, normally a cloud of gas and dust, appears diminished. In its place, the infrared imaging reveals a geometric formation emerging from the nucleus. The structure displays reflective surfaces arranged in symmetrical configuration, right angles, straight edges, uniform planes. Natural cosmic objects form through gravity, turbulence, and thermodynamics. They produce irregular shapes, spheres, spirals, fragments. They do not produce equilateral triangular constructs with defined reflective geometry. The rendered frame shows a structure casting a sharp shadow across residual dust. The edge of that shadow is clean, implying a solid surface with high albedo reflectivity. Analysis suggests reflectivity approaching 99% of incident starlight. Even more concerning, comparison with a frame captured 4 milliseconds earlier shows motion. The structure rotated slightly between exposures. The comet's nucleus rotates clockwise. The geometric object is rotating counterclockwise. Angular momentum conservation dictates that components of a unified body spin in the same direction unless separated by force or independence. A mountain does not spin opposite its planet. A crater does not detach and rotate independently. The only explanation consistent with physics is separation. The structure is distinct from the comet. It was contained within it, and it has begun moving independently. Thermal spikes, detected by Webb, coincide with the onset of this rotation. The radio emission occurred at the same instant. The gravitational disturbance aligns precisely with activation. Within the last hour, NASA has rerouted Deep Space Network antennas in Canberra and Madrid exclusively toward 3i, Atlas. Other missions have been paused, schedules have been cleared. That level of operational prioritization does not happen for routine observations. It happens for unprecedented events. We expected ice and rock. Instead, we may be observing a machine, and if it is a machine, it has just activated. The implications of activation extend beyond curiosity. If the structure within 3I, Atlas, is artificial, then its timing demands explanation. Comets enter the inner solar system frequently. Thousands have been observed. Why would this object become active precisely when the most advanced infrared telescope ever built was directed at it? The probability of coincidence is statistically negligible. That suggests a trigger. The act of observation may have initiated response. The telescope remains locked because the incoming signal is overriding its safety protocols. Engineers describe it not as malfunction, but as sustained communication. The handshake theory gains strength here. The object appears to recognize observation. Let us establish verified facts. At 9:14 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope locked onto 3I, Atlas, and refused disengagement. 3 independent observatories detected simultaneous anomalies: gravitational fluctuation by Euclid, radio burst by ALMA, and thermal spike within Webb itself. The internal image shows a geometric structure rotating independently of the comet nucleus. A coherent prime number signal is being transmitted. Directed energy is heating the telescope mirror. These are recorded measurements, not speculation. The unanswered question remains, why now? If this phenomenon is natural, then our understanding of matter and energy is incomplete. We would be witnessing a new physical state capable of generating coherent information and defying angular momentum norms. That would rewrite textbooks from Newton to Einstein. If it is a glitch, it is one spanning multiple continents and 2 spatial positions simultaneously. The probability of synchronized sensor hallucination across independent systems is effectively zero. The remaining scenario is technological origin. If the structure is a probe that has drifted within the Oort cloud for millions of years, waiting for detection, then it has chosen this moment to respond. That would imply intentional dormancy and activation upon recognition. As this analysis unfolds, the James Webb Space Telescope remains fixed in position. Engineers are not forcing a reboot. They are allowing the data stream to continue. Every hour adds terabytes of information to the buffer. In approximately 6 hours, 2 outcomes are possible. The telescope will overheat and initiate automatic shutdown, or it will complete the download. Deep space network antennas remain aligned. Detectors are active. No interruption is planned unless structural integrity is threatened. Humanity launched Webb to study the early universe, to observe the formation of galaxies and stars. Instead, it may be capturing evidence that the universe is not merely passive matter and energy. The geometry is measurable, the signal is structured, the motion is independent. If the download completes, we will have direct access to the data stream. If it fails, the partial records already obtained will still demand explanation. Either outcome alters our perspective permanently. The object within 3I, Atlas, has emitted a prime number sequence that is accelerating. It has rotated counter to the comet's spin. It has directed energy toward Lagrange point 2 with extraordinary accuracy. And as the clock advances, one reality becomes unavoidable. We are not simply observing something ancient and inert. We are observing something that reacted to being seen. As engineers continue monitoring the stream, additional details are emerging from deeper analysis of the partial image render. The geometric structure is not a simple triangular outline. High-resolution data indicates layered surfaces arranged in concentric alignment, forming what appears to be a 3-dimensional construct rather than a flat plane. Spectral reflectivity suggests engineered material properties. Natural ice reflects light diffusely. This surface reflects directionally, consistent with controlled geometry. The sharpness of shadow boundaries implies minimal surface irregularity. Moreover, the counter-rotational movement is accelerating in synchronization with the prime number pulse frequency. Angular velocity calculations indicate deliberate adjustment rather than passive drift. If the structure were debris dislodged from the comet, it would obey conservation laws and match rotational inertia. Instead, torque measurements imply internal propulsion or independent stabilization. Simultaneously, Euclid's gravitational readings show microvariations consistent with localized mass redistribution. That suggests internal mechanical activity affecting density distribution. ALMA continues, detecting intermittent radio coherence, bursts at intervals matching prime transitions. The synchronization across optical, gravitational, thermal, and radio domains strengthens the technological hypothesis. Engineers analyzing the header file report metadata, formatting inconsistent with known cosmic sources. The modulation pattern resembles digital compression signatures, though not matching any human-developed protocol. If the telescope is indeed receiving encoded information, the content may not be purely symbolic. It may represent data structured for interpretation by advanced instrumentation. NASA has implemented Level 1 classification procedures internally. Public statements remain cautious, referencing instrument anomalies under investigation. Privately, cross-agency collaboration has expanded. The key concern now is thermal tolerance. Webb's mirror segments, composed of gold-coated beryllium, are designed for stability at cryogenic temperatures. Sustained directional heating could induce micro-deformation, compromising optical alignment permanently. Engineers must balance preservation of the telescope with continuation of data acquisition. The philosophical implications are profound. If this is artificial, it predates human civilization by astronomical timescales. It may have traveled interstellar distances embedded within cometary material for protection. The possibility that the activation was triggered by infrared scanning suggests recognition of technological observation. That implies sensing capability. If sensing capability exists, then awareness of detection may exist. No official confirmation of extraterrestrial origin has been issued, yet operational behavior indicates seriousness beyond routine anomaly management. The accelerating prime sequence now extends beyond initial integers. It continues into higher values with flawless mathematical accuracy. This is not noise, it is structured communication. Whether the intent is informational, warning, or simple acknowledgement remains unknown. The James Webb Space Telescope continues holding position, reaction wheels operating near maximum tolerance. Buffer capacity fluctuates as fragments of the packet decrypt in segments. Every decoded fragment increases clarity and deepens uncertainty. If the structure completes rotation and the signal stabilizes, we may witness full transmission. If energy levels rise further, emergency shutdown may occur to protect instrumentation. The coming hours will determine whether humanity receives a complete message or only fragments of an interrupted one. For now, the telescope remains fixed, listening. We now stand at a defining threshold. All verified telemetry confirms ongoing transmission. The structure within 3I, Atlas continues counter-rotation, synchronized with the accelerating prime sequence. Thermal input remains concentrated on the telescope's primary mirror, but within survivable margins for the moment. The Deep Space Network antennas in Canberra and Madrid remain exclusively aligned. Other scheduled observations are postponed indefinitely. This prioritization underscores institutional recognition of the event's magnitude. The final unanswered question persists. What is the objective of the signal? Three possibilities remain. First, unknown natural physics producing coherent mathematical emission and geometric structure. That would revolutionize astrophysics overnight. Second, systemic malfunction across independent observatories, statistically near impossible. Third, artificial origin. If artificial, then humanity is no longer speculating about extraterrestrial technology. It is receiving direct evidence. The accelerating prime sequence may represent handshake protocol, an attempt to establish baseline recognition of intelligence. Prime numbers are universally distinguishable, independent of language. The rotational mechanics suggest activation sequence. The directional heating indicates targeted alignment. We are not observing passive relic matter, we are witnessing response. If the download completes before thermal limits are reached, full decryption efforts will begin. International collaboration would likely follow, though political dynamics may complicate transparency. If shutdown occurs, partial data already stored will undergo forensic-level analysis. Either way, the evidence cannot be erased. Independent gravitational and radio detections confirm event authenticity beyond a single instrument. Humanity sent the James Webb Space Telescope to look backward in time, toward the earliest galaxies. Instead, it may have looked outward and been noticed. The structure waited within cometary cover, possibly for eons. It remained dormant until scanned with high-resolution infrared instrumentation. That timing suggests conditional activation. We may have triggered something ancient. The next 6 hours will define whether this is first contact, new physics, or the most extraordinary anomaly in observational history. As you watch this unfold, remember that this is not theoretical speculation. These are real-time telemetry events documented across agencies and continents. The telescope remains locked. The signal continues. The geometry rotates. The universe is not silent. If you want to follow every verified update as this story develops and understand the science behind each new data release, make sure you subscribe and stay with us, because the next transmission may change our understanding of reality forever.